Welcome back to the Jazz Pursuit. In this video, we're going to look at the Christmas song, also known as Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, written by Robert Wells and Mel Tormé in 1945. There are countless great recordings of the Christmas song, from the likes of Nat King Cole, Gregory Porter, Michael Bublé and Mel Tormé himself, all of which have their own subtle differences. In this video, we're going to break down the harmony, melody and structure of the Christmas song, hopefully making it easier to learn and remember. We'll begin with the harmonic foundations before discussing common substitutions and reharmonisations later in the video. Do like and subscribe, and for a PDF handout that includes the piano sheet music of our arrangement, lead sheet and full analysis, visit our website linked in the description below. Right, let's get started. So first off, let's look at the key bits of information. The Christmas song is in 4/4 time and has been recorded in several keys. Mel Tormé and Nat King Cole in D flat major, Gregory Porter in B flat major and Michael Bublé in C major. For ease, in this video we're going to learn it in C major. The form is 32 bars, divided into an A-A-B-A structure, where each section lasts for 8 bars. First, there's the A section, which is then repeated. This is followed by the B section, before ending with a final A section. Great! So that's the key bits of information. Now, let's take a look at the harmony in the A section. So, the Christmas song is in C major, and the harmony begins by walking through the chords of the key, from chord 1 to chord 4. Chord 1 is C major 7, chord 2 is D minor 7, chord 3 is E minor 7, and chord 4 is F major 7. Then it falls back to chord 1, C major 7, before there's a 2-5-1 cadence to chord 4, F major 7. As F major 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the 2-5-1, this means G minor 7 is the 2 chord, and C7 is the 5 chord. Next, the harmony moves to chord 6, the relative minor A minor 7, before returning to chord 1, C major 7. At this point, the harmony has hit all the common landing points in the key. It's outlined chord 1, chord 4, and the relative minor chord 6. Now, let's quickly recap the harmony up to this point with the piano. So, we start by walking through the chords of the key, from chord 1 to chord 4. Chord 1 is C major 7, chord 2 is D minor 7, chord 3 is E minor 7, and chord 4 is F major 7. Then, the harmony moves back to chord 1, C major 7. This is followed by a 2-5-1 cadence to chord 4, F major 7. G minor 7 is the 2 chord, C7 is the 5 chord, and F major 7 is the 1 chord. From here, the harmony then moves to chord 6, the relative minor A minor 7, before returning to chord 1, C major 7. Great! And now let's finish off the A section. Next, there are 2 2-5-1s that take us outside the home key. The target point of the first 2-5-1 is chord 3 as a major chord, so E major 7. As E major 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the 2-5-1, this means the 2 chord is F sharp minor 7 and the 5 chord is B7, which resolves to chord 1 E major 7. Then, the target point of the second 2-5-1 is the flat 3 as a major chord, so E flat major 7. As E flat major 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the 2-5-1, This means that F minor 7 is the 2 chord and B flat 7 is the 5 chord, that resolves to E flat major 7 as the 1 chord. Cool! And now we're in the last bar of the first A section. As the form is AABA, we now need to resolve back to chord 1 for the second A section, and this happens through another 2-5-1. The C major 7 chord in bar 1 of the second A section is the target point, which means D minor 7 is the 2 chord and G7 is the 5 chord. Great! So that's the harmonic foundations of the A section. Later in the video, we'll look at common substitutions and reharms, but for now, let's hear the foundations on the piano. Cool! And before we look at the melody, we need to add a second time ending for the A section. The first A section ends by resolving to chord 1 C major 7 in the first bar of the second A section. However, in the second A section, it needs to resolve to chord 1 earlier, as it's moving on to the B section. The change happens in bar 7. The 2-5-1 cadence that moved outside of the home key to E major 7 instead resolves to chord 3 as we might expect, a minor 7 chord, E minor 7. Then, from here, the harmony moves on every beat through a 3-6-2-5-1 progression. E minor 7 is chord 3, A minor 7 is chord 6, D minor 7 is chord 2, and G7 is chord 5, that takes us to chord 1, C major 7. A common tweak in a 3-6-2-5-1 is to change chord 6 to a dominant chord, so A minor 7 to A7. This creates a 5-1 cadence to the following 2 chord, giving the overall progression more momentum. Cool! So now let's hear the harmony of the second time ending on the piano. Super! So that's the foundation harmony of the A section. Now let's take a look at the melody. The A section melody is made up of 5 phrases. Phrase 1 begins by jumping an octave on the root C. Then it walks down through the major scale until it reaches the third E. Phrase 2 is then a development of phrase 1. This time, rather than jumping an octave to start the phrase, it jumps a sixth, from the root C to the 6th A. Then, just like phrase 1, it walks down through the major scale, this time until it reaches the root C. Phrase 3 is a different idea to the phrases we've heard already. It begins on the root C and then rises to the 2nd D. Then, it falls back to the root C and walks up through the major pentatonic scale, from the root to the 6th A. The phrase ends by rising to the 7th B. Phrase 4 is where the harmony moves outside of the key, and the melody reflects this. It begins with a semitone approach from above to the 3rd of the E major 7 chord, G sharp. Then, it reinforces the next tonal centre. E flat major 7 is the next 1 chord, and the melody walks down through the E flat major scale from the 5th B flat to the root E flat. But it doesn't quite reach the root, and instead, at the last moment, rises to the 3rd G. Phrase 5 is a sequence of phrase 4. Here, it reinforces the home key C major, and walks down through the C major scale from the 5th G to the root C. This time the melody does reach the root, in the first bar of the second A section. Great, so that's the A section melody. Now let's hear it in time on the piano. Cool! And now for the second time bar. As the harmony in the second A section ends differently, so too does the melody. The first 3 phrases are identical, and then the melody changes from the 4th phrase. It begins with a tone approach from above to the 3rd of the E minor 7 chord, G, before falling to the root E. Then it outlines the root and 7th of the A7 chord, A and G, before landing on the 3rd of the D minor 7 chord, F. The second A section ends with a semitone approach from below to the root of the 1 chord, C. Nice! And now let's hear the second time ending on the piano. Great, so that's the A section. Now let's take a look at the B section. Up first is the harmony. The B section begins with a 2-5-1 cadence to chord 4, F major 7. As F major 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the cadence, this means G minor 7 is the 2 chord and C7 is the 5 chord. Then, this same 2-5-1 to chord 4 is repeated. G minor 7 to C7 to F major 7. Next, chord 4 F major 7 turns minor, F minor 7, and becomes the 2 chord in another 2-5-1. As F minor 7 is the 2 chord, this means B flat 7 is the 5 chord and E flat major 7 is the 1 chord. Now, we're 2 bars from the end of the B section, and the harmony needs to move towards chord 1, C major 7, for the final A section. It gets there through a common set of 2 5s. We're currently on E flat major 7, and next we move the furthest possible distance away from E flat. This distance has lots of names: an augmented 4th, diminished 5th, or a tritone. Tritone is probably the most common term in jazz, and a tritone away from E flat is A. And this is where the harmony goes, to chord 6, A minor 7. A minor 7 is then the 2 chord in the first 2-5, which means D7 is the 5 chord. Then, rather than resolving, D7 turns minor, D minor 7, and becomes the 2 chord in the next 2-5. As D minor 7 is the 2 chord, this means G7 is the 5 chord, which resolves to chord 1 C major 7 in the first bar of the final A section. Great, so that's the B section harmony. Now let's hear it on the piano. Cool, so that's the harmony. Now let's take a look at the melody. The B section melody consists of 4 phrases. Phrase 1 begins in the second time ending of the A section. It rocks between the root and major 7 of the C major 7 chord, C and B, before jumping to the third of the G minor 7 chord, B flat. Chord 1 of this 2-5-1 is F major 7, and the melody then walks down through the F major scale until it reaches the root F. Phrase 1 ends by rising to the second of the F major 7 chord, G. Phrase 2 is a development of phrase 1. It begins the same way, by rocking between a C and B, now the 5th and sharp 11 of the F major 7 chord. Then it jumps to the third of the G minor 7 chord, B flat. But rather than sitting on this third, it alternates it with the second A. Then, just like in the previous phrase, the melody walks down through the F major scale until it reaches the root F, before ending by rising to the second of the F major 7 chord, G. Phrase 3 begins the same way as both previous phrases, by rocking between a C and B. Then, it sequences the previous phrases to fit the new harmony. It jumps to an A flat, the third of the new 2 chord, F minor 7, and alternates this with the second G. E flat major 7 is the 1 chord in this 2-5-1, and the phrase then walks down through the E flat major scale until it reaches the root E flat. Phrase 3 ends by rising to the second of the E flat major 7 chord, F. Phrase 4 does the opposite of the previous phrases. Rather than clearly outlining the harmony, it instead repeats a common note from the following 4 chords. It begins by referencing the start of the previous phrases, but rather than alternating a C and B, it instead alternates the root and second of the E flat major 7 chord, E flat and F. Then, it falls to the fourth of the A minor 7 chord, D, and sits on this D whilst the harmony changes underneath, taking us back to C major for the final A section. I really like the development of phrases in the B section, and how it smooths the harmonic transitions. Phrase 4 then acts as a palate cleanser, giving the listener some new melodic information before repeating the familiar A section. Now, let's hear the B section melody in time on the piano. Great, and then the form is completed by a final A section. The harmony in this final A section is the same as the second A section, as it needs to resolve to chord 1 before the end of the form. The melody, however, is slightly different to the earlier A sections. Phrase 1 and phrase 2 are identical, but there are some differences in the third and fourth phrases. Phrase 3 begins by alternating the second and third of the A minor 7 chord, B and C, before rising to the fourth D. Then, the remainder of the phrase is the same as earlier. It falls to the root of the key, C, and rises through the major pentatonic to the 6th A, before landing on the 7th B. Phrase 4 then starts by falling from the flat 9 to the 7th of the B7 chord, C to A, before landing on the 3rd of the E minor 7 chord, G. The melody then ends by falling to the root of the home key, C, and alternating this with the second, D. Cool! And due to the new fourth phrase, we need to tweak the harmony. Earlier, we changed the 6th chord in bar 7 to A7 to give more momentum to the 3-6-2-5-1. But, as the melody note at this point is now the minor third C, we should change this chord back to a regular 6 chord, A minor 7. Cool! So that's the whole tune. Now, we're going to look at some of the various reharms and substitutions I've found in different recordings, and all of them take place in the A section. So, substitution number 1 is all about 5/1 cadences, and there are 3 places where we can add them. First up is bars 2 and 3. Currently, chord 4 F major 7 is resolving to chord 1 C major 7, but in here we can drop a 5/1 cadence to give this resolution more momentum. C major 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the cadence. G7 is the 5 chord that takes us there. Cool! And 5/1 cadence number 2 happens in the 4th and 5th bar. Currently, this is a bar of chord 4 F major 7, then a bar of chord 6 A minor 7. Again, to give more momentum to this change in harmony, we can drop in a 5/1 cadence. A minor 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the cadence, which means E7 is the 5 chord that takes us there. Nice! And then the third 5/1 cadence we can add is in bars 5 and 6. Currently, this is a bar of chord 6 A minor 7 that then moves to chord 1 C major 7. Again, in here we can drop a 5/1 cadence to emphasise this resolution. C major 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the cadence, so G7 is the 5 chord that takes us there. Great! So that's the 5/1 cadences added. Now let's hear how it sounds on the piano. Nice! And now for substitution number 2. Substitution number 2 is in bar 5, and it's a development of the 5/1 cadence that we just added. Rather than a 5/1 cadence, we can change this to a backdoor cadence. In a backdoor cadence, the 5 chord resolves up a tone, rather than down a 5th. Here, C major 7 is still the target point of the cadence, and the backdoor 5 chord that resolves up a tone to C is B flat 7. Cool! And now let's hear that resolution, but with the backdoor cadence. Great! Next up is substitution number 3, and this is in the first 2 bars of the A section. Currently, this walks through the chords of the key, from chord 1 to chord 4. But a neat trick here is to drop in a 1, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 progression. Chord 1 is C major 7, chord 4 is F major 7, chord 3 is E minor 7, chord 6 is A7, chord 2 is D minor 7, and chord 5 is G7, which resolves to chord 1 C major 7 in bar 3. This is a harmonically dense substitution, so should be used sparingly rather than in every A section. Let's hear how it sounds on the piano. Cool! And now for the final substitution, and this one is more of a reharmonisation. To explain it, we need to change bars 1 and 2 back to the earlier chords that rise through the chords of the key, from chord 1 to chord 4. So, this reharm allows the bass note to rise through the first 4 bars. Before we get into it, we first need to change the target point in bars 4 and 5. Rather than chord 4 F major 7 in bar 4, this is instead chord 6 A minor 7. And rather than chord 6 A minor 7 in bar 5, this is instead chord 1 C major 7. Cool! So we begin by rising through the chords of the key, from chord 1 to chord 4. Then, in bar 3, we keep chord 1 C major 7, but change the bass note to the 5th G. So the chord becomes C major 7 over G. Now, the next target point is the A minor 7 chord in bar 4, and we set this up through a 5-1 cadence. A minor 7 is the 1 chord and target point of the cadence, which means E7 is the 5 chord that takes us there. However, we tweak the bass note of this E7 chord to its 3rd G sharp to keep the ascending bass motion. This resolves to A minor 7, and then the next target point is chord 1 C major 7 in bar 5. Rather than getting there through a 5-1 cadence, this time we instead use a backdoor cadence. C major 7 is the target point of the backdoor cadence, which means B flat 7 is the backdoor 5 chord that resolves upper tone to C major 7. Cool! And this now leaves us with 6 beats of C major 7 before the F sharp minor 7 chord in bar 6. So, here we add another substitution. Firstly, we change the bass note of the C major 7 chord in bar 6 to its 5th G, making the chord C major 7 over G. Then, we use chord 4 as a dominant chord, F7, to take us there. This is like another backdoor cadence. The F7 chord resolves upper tone to the G bass note of the C major 7 over G chord. Another little tweak we need to add to this substitution is to change the quality of the E7 chord in bar 3. The melody here outlines the sharp 9 and flat 9, so we should put this in the chord symbol, E7 flat 9 sharp 9 over G sharp. Nice! There's a lot packed into that one, but I think it's worth it. Let's hear how it sounds on the piano. Great! So that's the Christmas song, and a few of the common substitutions and reharmonisations. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful. For a PDF handout that includes the piano sheet music of our arrangement, lead sheet and full analysis, visit our website linked in the description below. Happy practicing!